Do you know the kind of power that went into you? Do you know that that power is the same power that raised Christ from the dead? Do you know that that power which went into you that day when you got saved, whether you know it or feel it or not, is still there inside of you? It will be there forever inside of you, in your spirit. Do you know these things? You are my hiding place. You always fill my heart with song of deliverance. Whenever I am afraid, I will trust in you. I will trust in you. Let the weak say I am strong in the strength of the Lord. I will trust in you. I will trust in you. Say it. Let the weak say I am strong in the strength of the Lord. I will trust in you. I will trust. We will trust in you, Lord. We are strong. In the strength of the Lord, I will trust in you. I will trust in you. Let the weak say I am strong in the strength of the Lord. Paul says we are a new creation. Anyone who is in Christ, he's a new creation. So one way the New Testament talks about this big changes, it says we are born again, we are a new creation, and so on. But the thing that Paul talks more often, you will see born again, new birth, things like that more in John than in Paul. Paul uses another way to teach about what has happened truly on the inside when a person gets saved. And you know what he says? You have been raised from the dead. Okay, he says when you got saved, you had a resurrection. Your spirit, which was dead, was raised up from the dead. Every single person who's saved, right, truly saved, has already been raised from the dead. Only spiritually, not physically, but that itself is huge. That's what I'm going to try to show you. That itself is huge. Do you have any idea how huge this is, right? See, we think, we don't attach so much importance to the salvation thing, We know it's important, and when altar call comes, we're all very somber and very prayerful. Altar call is given. Let's be serious. We know something serious is happening, but we really don't get into the depths of it. We get saved and then we move on. We say, I'm saved, I'm baptized. Now what's next? What's next in the Christian life? We say, some people say, I'm saved, I'm baptized, but I'm suffering through this problem right now. I have a debt problem. I'm saved, I'm baptized, but I don't have peace of mind yet. I am saved, I am baptized, but I am sick. So now you pray that God will heal me. See, without saying, what they are actually saying? Let me explain. They are saying, I am saved, I am baptized, but that's not really much use. See, Nothing big really happened there. Something good happened. My sins were forgiven, and whatever. But it is of no use to me today. Today I am in debt. I am in sickness. Today I am having problem getting college admission. Today that's a big problem now. People who got low marks are having trouble. Now it's, college admission time, They are saying, you may be sitting here with all kinds of problems. You may be wondering, what is he talking about getting saved? I'm already saved. Say something that's relevant to my problem, you may be thinking. I'm talking about you only, okay? See, we think, that is saved, that all has happened, but God did something good there. But that what use is it to me to get the admission? What use is it to get a, job or something like that, We think God did something good there, but today I need him to do something bigger, greater, more powerful, save me from this debt. See, we think the debt we have, the sickness we have today, requires God's greater power. There's the problem, okay? We think that was something big, God did that, but now I have something worse. Sickness, debt, right? Let God do something here. Let him show more power here. Let me tell you, my friend, the greatest power that God can show you has already been shown if you are saved. He is not going to show more power than he showed during the time of your salvation for the rest of your life. I don't know if that's coming as a shocking news to you. You know why? He can't. The greatest power he can show to you has already been shown at the time of your salvation when he raised you from the dead. You may be thinking, God, show more power here. My sickness, my cancer. Maybe a big sickness, maybe a big debt, my friend. I'm not undermining your sickness, you see. I'm not undermining your problem. I'm not just trying to say, oh, it's not a big problem. No, it's a big problem. I realize that. I understand that. But God has solved an even bigger problem already. Are you aware of that? God has saved you, which is an even bigger problem than healing you of. You know that the greatest miracle that can take place is a person getting saved. Do you know that? That miracle takes more of God's power than any other problem we may have in this life. See, if you begin to think like this, you know how you'll begin to think. I'm saved, I'm baptized. That means if the God who saved me is my God, then he will surely deliver me from this. Amen. You see, the faith gets angled and directed when you appreciate really what happened in salvation, when you got a revelation of the greatness, the glory of the salvation that you have received, the other problems you face in life don't seem so big. It is easy to believe that you can have the victory over them. I hope you're getting this. Our problem is we don't make too much of our salvation. We say, I'm saved, I'm baptized, I know that, I know the salvation, I got saved, I know that. What's next? Tell me what's next in the Christian life. I want to, grow as a Christian. Well, hang on 1 minute. Do you know what happened at your salvation? Do you know the kind of power that went into you? Do you know that power is the same power that raised Christ from the dead? Do you know that power which went into you that day when you got saved, whether you know it or feel it or not, is still there inside of you. It will be there forever inside of you, in your spirit. Do you know these things? See, have you ever thought of salvation in that way? Salvation is the greatest thing God can ever do for you. He's already done it, finished, over. Everything else is chota patak things. See, it's like the same thing what I said, you remember, Red Sea is there, Lazarus' resurrection is there, but which is greater? Jesus' resurrection is? It's exactly the same. Deliverance from cancer is there, from debt is there. Getting saved is there, which is greater? Which requires the greater power of, you see, this is what we're going to be looking into today, you see. When we got saved, what happened? My friend, we experienced the greatest change. We were raised from the dead. Now, in order to understand this, what we're going to do is we're going to look at how we were before we got saved, and then how we are after we got saved. So before we got saved, the before picture, and then the after we got saved picture of the inner man. Okay, it's easy to take a picture of the outer man, but inner man, you got to look into this, and I got to slowly draw it. It's not like a one click, no. It takes me time to draw it, so be prepared. You know about this before and after picture? Have you seen it on Facebook? A lot of people post before and after. You know, before I was like this, now I am like, it's used a lot in these diets. They try to convince you to take some diet, and so they say, before I was like this, I went on this diet for 2 months, and then I became like this. You see that, and you're like, my goodness, before the person is, fat, and, he's just breaking out on all sides, And pardon me for, But, and then now he's like, perfect cut and whatever. In 2 months, this diet made him like this, we think. So this diet must be a powerful diet. I can go, nowadays they compete. The diets are competing with one another to get your attention. Because a lot of diets are there. One diet is saying, you don't eat any non-veg. Another diet is saying, you eat all the non-veg you want. All the non-veg you want. Just cut out the rice. In fact, you eat all the fat also you want. Just cut out the rice. Some diets are saying, cut out everything that is white. Rice, milk. There's all kinds of diets. How do they pull you? How do they hook you? How do they show that their diet is powerful? By showing you the impressive before and after. Now we are going to look at our before picture and then our after picture. Be prepared, because the before picture doesn't look too good. Okay, before, how were we before we got saved? Paul says in Ephesians 2:1, and you he made alive who were dead. Who were dead in trespasses. And what were you before you were dead? A little harsh. I say very harsh. Paul, very harsh, very rude. Dead? That's how we were before? Dead? I mean, you can't find a better way to say it. Paul, you could have said we were sick. We were, wounded maybe. Why dead? Should you be so rude? Should you be so extreme? We had a moral sickness, as they say, We didn't have a good mindset. We didn't have a good purpose in life. You could say like that, Paul. Some people say, I didn't have a good purpose in life. Now I become saved. Now I have a purpose and I'm trying to do God's will. That's good. That's there. But Paul doesn't say that. Paul doesn't say you were almost dead. You were about, even recently one person told me how just before they got saved at a point where, it happened exactly just before they were about to get into a very serious drug addiction. Okay, the person was telling me about his experience and how he was addicted to drugs already, but he was about to start taking another drug, which if you just take 3-4 doses, you will get hooked for life, basically. It'll just pull you in. So he was about to take that other drug, he said, and just when he was about to do that, just of one day or something before, just God miraculously met him and pulled him out of that, and he got saved. His friend went ahead and got into that drug, and he died, he said. What a powerful testimony, God in his grace has saved him. Paul could have said like that, Just when I was about to die, Christ came and... No, he doesn't say that. He says, you were dead. See, Paul knows you were not fully dead. He knows that you were walking around, moving around. Physically, you were alive, right? Even mentally, you were alive, you may say. You were going to work, you were coming, you were going to school, studying, you were helping others. You were doing a lot of good things even before you got saved. How can Paul say you were dead? Paul knows you were dead means you were spiritually dead. But notice in verse 1, right? Chapter 2, verse 1, he does not say you were spiritually dead. Does he say spiritually dead? No. Even in verse 5, he does not say spiritually. He puts it in the most crass, rude manner as possible, without clarifying. See? He could have easily clarified and said, you were alive only outside, but inside you were like me, But But he just says it to your face, just you were dead. That's it. Try going to an unbeliever and saying, you know what your problem is? You are dead. Some people in the name of evangelism, they go to an unbeliever and they have a great sense of honesty and they want to tell the truth to the unbeliever. So they go to the unbeliever and they reveal to him the true state of his condition in all its glory, or shall we say, ugliness, okay? They say, they say, I'm trying to evangelize. So they go to the unbeliever and they say, you know what your problem is? You are deep in sin, okay? And the sin thing is pulling you down. If you keep going like this, you're going to land up in hell. Do you know what hell is? It's a place where you will burn for all eternity, okay? You'll just burn and burn and burn. You'll not get burned up. The fire, the wrath of God is there. You want that end? You better come to Jesus now, Imagine if you say that to an unbeliever. And then imagine if they say, you know how you are right now? You think you are alive? You are dead. If you say that, probably, I wouldn't be surprised if they slap you or something like that. If they react in a violent way, many people get into trouble just because they evangelize like this. But if you notice Paul, he doesn't evangelize like this. If you go to the book of Acts and you see how he's talking to unbelievers, he talks in a very smooth way. He doesn't fully reveal their, true state. He says it in a different way. He tries not to offend them too much and pull them in. Now here, he's not talking to unbelievers, he's talking to believers. Now he wants to truly reveal to them the condition of their past, their before picture. Why? Then only they will understand how far they have come. How big of a change has happened inside of them. So he says, you are dead. Even Jesus uses this, you see. Jesus says, Jesus also is very, you may think rude. In this way, an interesting story of a young man going to Jesus in Matthew chapter 8, verse 21. A young man wants to follow Jesus and he tells Jesus, Jesus, I really want to follow you, but I just have one important thing to do. My father has just passed away. I need to bury my father and then I'll be totally free and commit myself to you. I will follow you. Now, what a very reasonable excuse, right? His father just passed away. Is there anything wrong in going and burying him and then coming in for nothing? I would say nothing wrong. I would have thought Jesus said, okay, no problem, go bury your father. And then, you know what Jesus tells that man? He says, let the dead bury the dead. You come now, follow me now. Sometimes Jesus shocks you, You think, Jesus. And some people think of Jesus only as a soft, very, timid, like that. Jesus is also the King of Kings. Sometimes he speaks harsh words, He says here, shocks me, Let the dead bury the dead. We don't have time even for this. We have more important work to do. You come follow me now, he says. Okay, but I want you to notice the let the dead bury the dead, right? He uses the word dead in two ways. He says, your father is dead. Let the other spiritually dead people who are walking around in this world bury this physically dead father. That's what he's saying. Yeah, you come follow me. We've got important things to do. See, Jesus also is not afraid of being rude about the true condition. You see, Luke 15, when the prodigal son returns, you remember that? The prodigal son story, and he returns. Jesus says, it is good that we should make merry and be glad, for this your brother was dead and is alive again, and was lost and is found. It's one thing to say was lost and then found. That's true, right? The prodigal son went away, he got lost, you may say, disappeared. Now he came back, he is found. That's true. But Jesus says he was dead and is alive again. A little extreme, don't you think? Why does Jesus and why does Paul and why does the Bible just put it in such extreme terms? Even though we're alive on the outside, dead only on the inside, why does it say you're dead just like that without even taking the time to clarify it really, Why does it put it so seriously? Because, why? Two reasons, I'll give you why. Probably more, but I'll give you two reasons. One reason is we are dead to God. One reason is we are dead when it comes to God. See, you may think, why so rude? I'm alive, I'm moving around, working, doing something and all. Okay, I may not have been saved, but why so rude, Well, why means you may be alive in many different ways. You may have done many important things. You may have studied well, worked hard. You've done a lot of good charitable deeds. But if you did not have a relationship with God, that means you're as good as I'm not talking about you now, okay? I'm giving you a before picture, right? Please understand, right? When there's no relationship, God, everything else may be there, but the lack of this one thing makes a person dead in the eyes of Jesus, in the eyes of Paul, in the eyes of the New Testament. This is how serious this matter is. When you're dead to God, God says you're dead to me, that's it. Right? As far as I'm concerned, as far as the Bible is concerned, you're dead. You may think you're living, but you are dead. We were not in relationship with God. Did not have a fellowship, a union with God. We may have known that there was a God, and we may have even sought His blessing, but we didn't have a real working, close relationship with this God, you see. We were not, we may have sought His blessing, but we would have never thought, oh, God has a will for my life. I need to find out what that will is, and I need to do that will. Did you ever think like that when you were an unbeliever? No, you didn't care about God's will. Who cares about God's will, We cared about our own will, you see. When it came to the things of God, we were not really that interested. Coming to church, we were not interested in ourselves. Maybe we were forced to come because our family went or something. But an unbeliever doesn't have a great interest to go to church, praise God, listen to the word, read the Bible or pray, Try going to an unbeliever and tell him, you got to give tithe, You got to give tithe. 10% you have to give to God. Try going and telling an unbeliever that. Even if you tell a believer, some believers don't like that. When it came to God and the things of God, we were totally lifeless. We were dead. We may have been alive in other things, but when it came to God, we were dead. Therefore, Paul is justified in calling us dead. Our before picture is dead. Another reason why he calls us dead is, he says we are dead because we were totally powerless to resist sin. We were dead because we were totally powerless to resist sin. Now look in that passage again, Ephesians 2, verse 1. He doesn't just say dead, he says dead in trespasses and sins. Again in verse 5 he says, not just dead, dead in trespasses, verse 5. Right? So dead in sins, that is, and then look in verse, if you look in verse 2, he says you are walking around in sins in which you once walked. Okay, so he's talking about sinning, and he's talking about resisting the pull of sin. When it came to resisting sin, we were totally powerless. To convey this idea, only Paul says we were dead. See, he's not trying to say dead in the sense that we didn't have any movement or no sign of life at all. No. He knows we were moving, doing this and that, even sinning very profusely, you see. We were very alive to sin, but he says we were dead in the sense that we were powerless to resist sin. Do you know that the dead person is the most powerless person in the whole world? Do you know that? Take a bodybuilder. How much weight can he lift? A lot, right? Forget a bodybuilder. We have Bible students here who can carry 10, even 20 chairs at just one shot. I've seen some students do that. They're so, powerful. They have so much strength. I can't do that. You can't do that, I'm sure, So many chairs. Maybe a few chairs you can do it. Maybe if you call a sick person, they can lift only 1 or 2 chairs, right? If you go to the hospital and you take the people lying down there so weak, they are able to lift only 1 tumbler. That's all strength they have sometimes, right? Maybe if you got a very, very, very sick person about to die, they may be able to lift their finger at least, right? But if you go to a dead person and say, please lift this pin, can he do it? No. What is the point? The dead person is the most powerless, but the idea of powerlessness, no power, totally powerless. That is the idea Paul wants to convey. When it comes to sin, we were totally powerless. Totally. That's important to understand like that. Totally powerless. Not even an iota of power. Do you remember that old life before you got saved? You were totally powerless to the pull of sin. Paul says in verse 2 and 3 that the forces of the world, the flesh and the devil were pulling us. I don't have, I'm going to talk about it briefly, but not too much. In verse 2 and 3, he says, 3 things were pulling you, 3 forces were pulling you into sin, and you did not have the power to resist them. And he says, they are the world, the devil, and the flesh.
Give thanks to the Lord, our God and King.
His love endures forever. For He is good, He is above all things. His love endures forever. Sing praise, sing praise. With a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, His love endures forever. For the life that's been reborn, His love endures forever. Sing praise, sing praise, sing praise, sing praise, sing praise. Forever God is faithful. Forever God is strong. Forever God is with us. Forever and ever. Forever God is faithful. Forever God is strong. Forever God is with us. Forever and ever. Forever. From the rising to the setting sun, His love endures forever. And by the grace of God, we will carry on. Everybody! His love endures forever.